Got the DJ night.
Right, the DJ is not here. That's right. Good afternoon, blessings, my villagers. I tell you, what's in the village today? What's going on in the village today? Everyone getting ready, I know, for the good giving, the praise giving, Thanksgiving. Well, you spend what you need to spend today because you know there is a, well, I won't say boycott, it's just a pause in spending from November 25th, which is tomorrow, right, through December 2nd. That's our militia. We don't need the gun. We just need to keep these $3 trillion in our black economy in our pockets for a few days, showing them how not to mess with us. So just do whatever you got to do today, and please just reserve the 25th through the December 2nd as a non-spending day. You know, that's only for a few days. And when we do that, we can convince people don't mess with us because we know what we spend in our community. Let me just see what I have here. That's okay. Keeping our community, blah, 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 blah. Now, this coming from your elder and my villagers, I have a birthday coming up next year, February 21st. I Googled where statistics says there are approximately 342.9 million people inhabiting these United States. And those of us who are 80 and above, we are 4.7 million. Now, rounded about, we have an obligation, those of us. We know some things other folks don't know at this age. Therefore, we have to use our knowledge, leave this knowledge to our young folks so they can know and pass it on, you know. So because we've been here and done that. And all we've got to put on it is for those of you that are coming behind us, so you can get so we can leave the legacy for you, in other words. Okay? In the word of a great ancestor, Brother Joe Madison, he said, put it where the goats can get it. So when you hear this elder, I bring it to you, young people, plain and simple. You've got to, tell it like it is. And now many of our elders don't come out for whatever reason. And one is this society doesn't honor its elders as it should. And as a result, some of our elders shy away from the public. Not because they are ashamed of their age, but because it's just that this society doesn't welcome their input. I always say, no, I'm not ashamed of my age. I'm ashamed of a society that's ashamed of my age, you know? A society that has forgotten how important it is to honor its elders. However, there are other societies, like, say, the African society that I've gone over several times, where they really respect and glorify age. But this society, it doesn't. I know that's what's missing. I didn't know I personally didn't know what I was missing. They don't know what they're missing. I didn't know what I was missing until I got to this age. But now, wow, the rewards that come with age, wisdom, grace, dignity, victory, right? But that's not my subject today. I'm on the soapbox, but I'm going to get off there for a minute and talk about what we are here to talk about today. I am your unapologetic amateur, Ruby Williams Shivers, looking for experts in Africanism. You all know I was solely for the restoration of us, the African American, back to our original self. I contend, based on the history of us, the Africans, and then the African Americans, from the beginning of time to 1619, we were a totally different people, but from 1619 to present, we are a damaged people. We have been suffering under what I imagine as a virus, one that has left not just physical, but psychological, cultural, spiritual, and economic symptoms, which opens up a path for structured healing. See, our experience is unique to any other human being on the face of the earth or any other planet, because what I have learned is that we are the only group that were labeled chattel slaves, meaning we were, considered less than human. We were owned forever in perpetuity, forever, and we are the only group that was stripped culturally. We were culturally annihilated, stripped of our language, our religion, our history, everything. Physically abused, raped, hanged, burned at the stake, cannibalized, became damaged goods, mentally and physically. It's evidence when we make statements like, for instance, I'm just as good as they are. And we know we hear that. We don't think while we're saying it. And just as qualified as they are. We have accepted the notion that they are qualified, good, and they are neither. That's why I become more convinced that we, as African Americans, need tending to. Our experts need to develop language which speaks to our uniqueness. As our great ancestor, again, Brother Joe Madison would always say, we need to put it where the goats can get it. Well, I say to do that, you've got to first name it. Identify what you're talking about. Imagine our situation as a virus, as I said. It's socially engineered, which mutates over time. And just as cancer or heart disease requires multiple specialists, so does this condition. I coined this condition hashtag African Slave Virus 401 because I was told a condition has to be named to give it legitimacy. Every major human experience has a name, a classification, and a defined pathology, the study of a disease. Without a name, our society will misdiagnose. Like slavery, that's a misdiagnosis of our condition. We are going to accept slavery as defined by Webster, then it is nowhere near a definition that defines what we went through. There is a Kiswahili word, though, that has been assigned to it. It's called maafa. It's coined by the sister Dr. Maramba Ani, which, have a great, which means, that word, ma'afa, means tragedy, horrific, tragedy, disaster, atrocities, which really to me still don't fully conceptualize the total experience that we have. We do know, however, one's narrative makes a difference in how the society perceives the situation. In our community, trauma becomes attitude. Appearance becomes defiance. Survival strategy become criminality. Anger mislabeled as hate rather than righteous indignation. We hear about, well, I don't want to hate. Well, when you're in righteous indignation of a situation, that's not hate, but that's how we have been redefined. So we have to always be very conscious. Systemic harm becomes personal responsibility. Like we are responsible for what we are going through. We got to be very conscious. So we labeled it. I labeled it African slave virus 401. Now, let me ask you, what do you do with the virus? Once it's diagnosed, you study it. Then you identify the symptoms, after which you develop cures or antidotes to control it. To do all that, it seemed to me, as with any other area of study, it generally requires research, laboratories, universities, funding specialists, diagnostic criteria, treatment, and long-term care. See, I experienced this human trafficked chattel slavery has been generally treated as just a debate. We debate it all the time, but it should go further than that, Not a field requiring rigorous scientific, psychological, historic, in economic, and cultural expertise. We all know to cure a virus, no one relies on guesswork or generalities. You need experts in that virus. That means, one, scholars trained specifically in African descended trauma transmission, one's own vocabulary, as I said before, and standards. So for what it's worth, this amateur, is putting it out there and hope and pray that our experts will follow through on what is needed to restore us to our greatness. I want to thank my team here. Now, I've said all that to say there's going to be a time when we're going to have to define it so specifically as such. And I take great pride in believing that God had assigned me at least this chore to bring some attention to something different from what many of us have known or seen before or thought of before when we start discussing or defining what we went through. And it can't always be from one person perspective, because we have not been able up to this point to get together in any serious way. And you'll hear the term sometime when it's referring to us as African people, well, we're not monolithic. Well, we have to know what that means, monolithic. We may need to be a little bit more monolithic. What we need to do is get together, as other folks do. There's another group that have got an organization that they go through yearly to get together and talk about things, to come up with a consensus, not to be monolithic, but to come up with a consensus. We need to, more than any other person, to be able to get together and come up with the idea. But we first got, again, let me just say this. We first got to name what it is that we went through, something other than just to debate or just to think is it historic. It's more than historic, it's ongoing. It's still with us. And until we can come up with a name, and I said before, we recognize it more clearly when we put a name to it. So that's why I perceive it as a virus, as something that we haven't had any attention, we paid attention, but haven't tended to it in any serious way. And it's going to take more than just this, that, and other person, me or anyone else who have not studied it seriously. And we have people out there who've studied it now. We have Dr. Joy DeGruy, who wrote the book, Post-Traumatic Slave Syndrome. We have Dr. Frances Cress Wilson, who wrote the book, The Wilson Papers. We have Dr. John Henry Clark. We have great people out there, educators, great experts, specialists. But what we need to do is, as I say, see it the same as you would see any other, what I call disease, that metastasizes. And we have to know how to get within there and clean it out. That's what we need. So we need to get our people in laboratories, not just me talking about it or you talking about it, but us getting together in a consensus to make sure we know we need to study what we went through. So we're going to be talking about that a whole lot. That was one of the first objectives of me having this podcast. My main objective, before we got this new man in town, this new sheriff in town, was just to restore us to our greatness. And in order to restore us to our greatness, I needed to put a name to it. As they say, in order to thing to be taken seriously, you got to put a name to it. So I put the name to it, African Slave Virus 401. And from there, we need to study it. And as any other major illness, sickness, or whatever you want to call it, we need to deal with it from that perspective. So I'm going to be talking more about this. As a matter of fact, I'm going to do more than that. I'm going to develop a manifesto, sort of, and put it out there so those that have not thought of it from that perspective may take it and move it further. Because I like to generally always quote the scripture that says, "My people will perish for lack of knowledge," And there's another quote that I like, that we, in order to make any change, you have to speak the situation aloud. You can't just hold it back and just know what you know and not speak on it. So we're definitely going to be there. But right now, let me thank my crew. I want to thank those who helped me diligently work here. My producer, Sheila Bird. I want to thank Juanita McClure, my advisor. Of course, I want to thank my promo crew. And, of course, I want to thank Norm, our engineer here. Keep us real here. And I have my co-host today, none other than the fabulous Ron McCray. Now, my co-host, my original my everyday co-host, Rose Moore, she's away. I think she's celebrating a birthday, a grandchild's birthday. I can't say anything about that because I have a birthday coming up tomorrow. Chloe, my granddaughter, I tell you, old age of 12. And her birthday is tomorrow, so we're celebrating that. So Rose is out today, but Rose will be back. But I'm so glad to have my friend here, Ron. He always comes when I need him, and I so needed him today. Ron, how are you doing, and what say you? Tell us what in your podcast, Poetically Speaking. Tell us a little about that.
Well, if I may, one, it's always a pleasure sitting here alongside of the Queen.
Oh, thank
you, sir. My sister Queen, no matter how you look at it. And you always have to give honor and respect to those who have paved the way, and then you learn something from their pathway into where you come from to where you are today. So that's what's important. We often talk about on our podcast, Poetically Speaking, and we try to tie in really a lot of different things from different perspectives, poetically speaking. You see, you can talk about, you can tell the story, and you tie it into what life has unfolded before you, which is poetically speaking. And this is what we were talking about last night. You know, how does one define poetry?
Okay.
You know, even now, what you are expressing on your show, poetically speaking, you know, it's almost like a comedian being on stage, you know, talking about somebody or whatever the case may be. But here, we try to keep it in the art of conversation. You know, we don't get raw, we don't get nasty, we don't disrespect. You know, we try to respect everybody. And an exact same thing as you expressed is coming together. How do we come together to build one body? Many parts, but one body.
Yeah.
And that's what's important.
Excellent, excellent. Yeah, I listen to you all the time. I tell you, I don't even miss it. Now, you all know I've added segments to my show here, my podcast, and I bring clippings on that's so informative, you know, because that's what we need. I tell you, I'm always I go by the scripture that says my people will perish for lack of knowledge. So I'm going to always bring you knowledge, because knowledge is what's going to relieve us from all that we've been through, because we have been liking that. We have been given knowledge that wasn't beneficial to us. We've been getting knowledge, but haven't been getting true knowledge, and we're going to be hearing some true knowledge. Yeah, so I bring clippings on from folks who have something to say that we all can learn from. And then I have a second segment called Africa Speaks, because Africa is speaking boldly these days, and we've got to cover them with our prayers and whatever other means necessary. Now let me see my villagers, and then we will bring up the first tape. So Norm, if you could bring up my villagers, George, oh my goodness, thank you all. Juanita McClure, Bernard Harrison. I love the Shivers. Lieutenant Lloyd Shivers was a great man and leader to the rest of a great. Okay, and then Juanita McClure, assalamu alaikum. Ron, happy to have you with us today. Thank you. Sadana, oh, my nephew, I'm blessed to have living elders in my family to pass down the knowledge. Love you, Auntie. Love you, too, my beautiful nephew. Bernard Harrison. Miss Shivers need people like you to keep our history alive. I love your pro-black spirit. That spirit was always punishable by death. It sure was. Now they cancel you and make you pay millions for that spirit. As Ecclesiastic 7:7. Surely oppression maketh a wise man mad, and a gift destroyeth the heart. So true. So true. Joy Jackson, California, my cousin. Good afternoon. Dara Bass, you back from Georgia. You back from Africa? He stays in Africa. Askia Muhammad, oh, that's my grandson, listening. Janice Heiser from North Carolina, bless you. Thank you. Checking in from North Carolina. Lloyd Sharpens, my son, good afternoon, family. I appreciate all of you. You know how I do it. I just love you and be glad that you are sitting here listening to it. Now, let me see. I want to, okay, right now we're going to bring up one of the clippings. And I think, Norm, I would like the one from last week. You remember the one that we said was 13 minutes? We can sit here and listen because it's very informative. If you have that one. Well, let me see. The one last week you said was a little lengthy and you didn't bring it up. But if not that one, just bring up like voting rights. Did we do voting rights? Yeah. Okay. How about white racism? Okay, let's do one that we didn't do. Okay, those are the ones. Let's do then buy nothing. Buy nothing. That's a good one because that's what I'm trying to impress upon our people. We don't need to buy anything anyway.
Buy nothing that doesn't circulate back into us. You hear me?
Loud and clear. And you said we're prioritizing who?
Support small, support local, support Black.
You know I got a free Black buying guide, right? No affiliate links attached to this. Hit that little hamburger at the top. 83 different categories. What are you looking for? What did you need? Like, we even have farmers and farmers that ship. Just tap and go. Because we can all buy a cow together and the whole block eats. I can turn this into a song in 2 seconds. First, let me get my earrings. We are buying black, we're buying black, we are buying black, and we are buying black. Listen, I may have missed every note possible, but how many days we have to do this?
So from November 25th to December 2nd.
Okay, the 25th through the 2nd. And we could go past those days. I'm just saying. By the end of November, I could be an opera singer for Black-owned businesses. Talking about Black-owned businesses and these shady businesses to avoid, because we're going to be about that life over on this side of the street. I wonder if there's an organization we could partner with. Y'all gonna have to come back for this one.
Buy nothing that doesn't circulate back into us. You hear me?
Loud and clear.
Heard that. That's the 25th through the December 2nd. Now bring it down again, Ron. Let me see the other one. It says white. What's wrong with white? Right there. That one. Okay. Because, you know, I would ask my white sisters to help me out and tell me what's wrong with their men. So when I see one of them, I want to bring them on. They're answering my call. Yeah, so let's listen to that one.
I don't mean to say this like to be disrespectful, and maybe this is, some people are gonna think this sounds dumb, but I feel like there's a deeper reason why, you know, people of color and specifically the Black community have been relentlessly persecuted. Like, I mean, just the things that happened during slavery alone, like, were insane. But I don't know, the more I learn about Black history and the ways that, you know, people who literally worked in the government, like the CIA, all these different people in power were trying to ruin the Black community. And it makes me think, dude, I feel like, is there something more going on here than just racism? Because it's like, come on, you're telling me you're doing all of this stuff just because you don't like someone's skin color? I feel like, what if, I have this theory that, like, what if Black people have some type of superpower? Like, what if they have, I don't know, if they're just born with something very valuable that we don't really know about, but maybe, you know, like I said, these people, these rich people and these people in power, maybe they figured it out a long time ago, and maybe that's why they were like, oh, we have to, like, get rid of them, blah blah blah. I don't know, I feel like maybe they have something special that we are not taught about that is linked to them being people of color, you know? And I've seen some Black creators come on here and try to explain how special it is to have melanin in your skin and how it has all these different properties. But I don't know, I just feel like I have this theory that this goes so much deeper than maybe a lot of us realize, because I'm sorry, but I don't think you're gonna go out of your way for all these hundreds and hundreds of years to try to ruin one group of people over something as silly as, oh, their skin is a different color. Like, I feel like there's something that we don't know. I'm telling you, there's something special about them that they don't want us to know. Okay, this is just something that I've been thinking about recently, and I'm like, maybe if there are some Black creators that maybe they already made a video and I just didn't see it, I don't know, but like, I don't know, maybe this sounds dumb. Or maybe this is like, yeah, no shit, Sherlock, but, you know, it's just something I was thinking about.
Now, this young lady is a smart young lady, very inquisitive and very analytical in her observation of how Black people have been treated and finding out the history that she is finding out. Now, the answer to her question is Black people that you know that came in the transatlantic slave trade, that went to the Caribbeans and went to the Americas, are in fact the biblical ethnic Jews of the Bible. We are the Hebrew Israelites. We are God's chosen people. And the push is for us not to learn who we are, because once we learn who we are as a people, we will be able to come back to the greatness that we once were.
I don't mean to say this like to be disrespectful.
Excellent. See, what I'm bringing on now is, and I do this deliberately and intentionally, because many of us still believe their eyes, white folks, eyes is colder than ours. And when we hear it from what Brother Joe Madison would say, from the horse's mouth, or where the goats can get it, then we might believe it. And because I reached out to my white sisters, remember, months ago, and said, what's wrong with your men? So a lot of them are giving answers to what they are curious about, too, about what is happening with their men particularly. and their people in general, I guess. But we do know that there's something strange going on when the majority of human beings want to do bad things to other human beings. That's just not normal. That's just not right. I don't care who it is, you know. So we are bringing this information on so you can hear it yourself and know that it is something that we may not have been privy to before, and certainly with them trying to take our history and other history out of the school system and libraries, etc. We know we do need to have at least our people get a lesson in reality. So I'm very pleased that we can bring the segment on. We have a segment too called Africa Speaks. Africa Speaks, as I said, because there's so much being done in Africa these days that we need to know. It's encouraging. And it's encouraging because this young man, I talk about him all the time. He is the president of Burkina Faso, and that's his brother, Abraham. I'm going to correct this. You correct me if I miscorrect it. Abraham Traore. My son out there in California, Walter, said, Mom, please say his name correctly. Also, I'm trying hard. Abraham Traore. We're going to bring him up, Ron.
I am Traore. To every African who has lost hope, I say this, lift your head high. You are the child of a powerful continent, the descendant of warriors, builders, and dreamers. Do not let the world convince you that your value is small. Africa is not a curse. It is a blessing misunderstood by those who fear its greatness. From the sands of the Sahara to the rivers of the Congo, from the peaks of Kilimanjaro to the forests of Cameroon, greatness flows in our blood. Yes, our nations face pain, corruption, poverty, and betrayal. But that is not the end of our story. Every struggle is a seed of strength. Be proud of your roots, your skin, your language, your culture. We don't need to be like others to rise. We only need to believe in who we are. The youth must wake up and rebuild what was broken. Let us learn, create, and stand together. The hope of Africa is not in foreign aid, but in the unity of its people. Be proud, stay strong, and never forget, Africa's future is in your hands. I am Traore. To every African...
I'm just encouraged whenever I hear the young man speak, because I know he knows what he's talking about. Now, Africa News. Could we bring that one up, Norm? Yes, that's. Good.
Good evening, Africa and the world. I am Akosua Prempe, your presenter from the United States of Africa TV. Tonight, we speak for justice, not revenge. We speak for a continent that has waited too long to reclaim what rightfully belongs to her people. Return the gold you looted from the vaults of Burkina Faso. Return the uranium profits you still collect from Niger. Return the billions of our reserves that sleep in foreign banks. And return the sacred artifacts of our ancestors, the pride of Africa that you still display in your museums. You say restitution is complicated. But what's complicated is justifying how a former colonizer continues to profit from nations it once enslaved. You say it's legal, yet those laws were written by thieves. You say it's not simple, but it was simple when you took everything. This is not... Good evening, Africa and the world.
Okay. That's very inspiring to know that it's out there. It's always been out there, but it's been we have not been privy to it because for a lot of different reasons don't have the didn't have the well, we had the information and much of it was hidden from us. Things that we are learning now that we didn't know before, and I'm just excited with the idea that we have information coming through, you know. So what you think, Ron, about what we are seeing these days on the media?
Well, it's a whole lot, and I know we don't have that much time, but let me just try to sum something up. And if I may, I want to go back for a second. I've been following Abraham Torres, you know, at Burkina Faso. And what he is saying is what our ancestors were doing in under condition we cannot begin to imagine.
Exactly.
So he's saying what he's saying now. His message in his presentation and all those who follow him is saying, act now. Let's do now. Just as you indicated, and the word is out, well, don't buy on this day. My position is, as I was saying to my brother Terry, you know, if we're going to do something, we need to do it across the board. You see, don't just pick and choose a store or business. We must do it collectively across the board, no matter how you look at it. What's happening today is what they've been doing since the beginning of time. Actually, if I may, very quick, I have a book, World Civilization, Western Civilization. And I think it was, if I recall, back in the 14th, 16th century, where the prince or kings and whatnot, along with all the billionaires and millionaires, was sucking the life out of the economy to the point where the people lost their job, lost their money, and they was out in the streets because they was in a desolate situation. That's what's happening today. And people, to me, fail to see what the so-called whatever is in office now, what he's doing. The question is, that has not, and I have not heard, is that, okay, where is the money that you're saving? Well, it's obvious. He's saving, but he's not saving for the economy. He's not making things better for the economy. He's making it work. He's sucking the life out of you with an injection of a syringe. And people are not paying attention to that. You see, and that's what's important of what's happening today.
I
in
think
the
they're
economy.
paying attention now, even those that may not have before. They just got caught up in, because he has done something that is just not in the history book. I mean, I'm old enough to know a lot of things prior to this so-called integration period.
Right.
So I was back there when there was times that we, you know, but I've not seen anything like this. You had to have been in slavery to have seen this, what he's doing, you know. So there are those, I think it just kind of caught many of us totally by surprise that you can have a so-called, not economy, the what we supposed to have. We're supposed to be in a democracy, a so-called democracy, and allow all that he has done within a period of 6 months. We're almost at the end of the year, but within 6 months, this man has done all this. So many of us was, even the best of us, was shocked, surprised, and taken aback by how he could. But we should have known because folks had been talking about the 2025, the book, the thing that they had already planned, so much of what's happening now. But he's just doing it in record speed, you know. So I don't know if it was not that many of us didn't know that it was a possibility, and particularly those of us who know a little bit of history know that we've been there, done that, you know. But to have reversed it in such short notice is mind-boggling.
You see, this is where the wake-up call comes in. If something happens in the moment, and let me say this, you know, when something happens, one doesn't stand out to find out what's going on. You act in the moment. Even nature responds because they sense something. And I say this because too many talk about our history. Well, one has to go back to understand who or what is your history. Where did your history start? Because all this is just a repeat. And as many may know, Solomon said there's nothing new under the sun. What took place then is happening now. It's just unfolding. It's just that the transition in the generations who became, in my opinion, you know, somewhat asleep, not paying attention. We should never, ever be in a position to forget where we come from or sleep on what's happening.
That's because, my brother, that goes back. You're absolutely right. I'm glad you put it in that perspective. That's because of what I have defined as the virus we have. If you got, I'm reminded, I always make the analogy of the pandemic that came through. When that pandemic hit us, we were so taken aback. Most of us didn't know which way to go, what end was up, down, around. We knew that we had not, in our lifetime, majority of the ones in the lifetime before 110 had not seen that kind of virus before. So no one of us was expected to do anything about that virus. We knew we needed specific people with specific skills who had done specific investigation into the whole idea of viruses. So when we talk about ourselves, and I know we get confounded, or we get confused, or we get we don't know why we're not doing certain things. But because if we want to think of ourselves as a virus that happened over 200 years and never been tended to, so we might necessarily know what to do. We see what's happening with us. But unlike even our ancestors that just came out of slavery, they were more aware of the situation than we are even today. They knew what they came from. Many of us over that period of time don't even know where we came from. We don't know we came from a great people. Don't know we are able to, and to correct some of what's going on with us. So we got to get back to there. And I understand your frustration, because if I hadn't put it in that perspective, identify what I thought it came from, I would also look at folks like Clarence Thomas, look at folks like Candy Owen, look at folks like, these folks who seem to be talking out of nowhere, because they are out of nowhere.
You see, virus and plague and famine has been around since beginning. Even back then, people didn't know what was going on. But back then in our history, they prayed to God for directions and guidance that was led by the Spirit. Yes, you're right. It was new to them. They didn't know what was going on. But it's only when you start to look at somebody or, a higher power to give you guidance and understanding. You said something in your opening all the time. Is that Hosea, and I think it's Hosea 4:10 or 4:10. My people perish for the lack of knowledge. And then also in Proverbs 29:18, where there's no vision, my people perish. One has to see what's going on.
You're absolutely right. But at least we get our villagers out there confused. Don't expect yourself to know all this. You look at yourself as someone who has that virus. We didn't expect us to bring any cure to it or any information about where we needed to go. We look for special people who studied it specifically, intentionally, to come in and help us get through it. All I'm saying is we got to, as African Americans particularly, because even with us in the diaspora, we're treated different from many of our other brothers and sisters. The two things that made it different was the stripping, cultural annihilation, just strip us of everything, our language, our culture, our religion, everything. And the second thing was when the kind of treatment. I just learned recently, and I'm of age and I'm pretty knowledgeable, I should have known it, but I didn't know they were cannibalized. We were cannibalized. I didn't know until I read Nat Turner where they took him and took his body, and some of them ate his remains. So we have been done so different from the average person who would be considered enslaved. Don't tell me that didn't affect us mentally, physically, psychologically, anything you can name. So all I'm saying, while we are, and I too, get disgusted sometime, and then I have to go back and think, well, if we have been subjected to all this abnormally, why wouldn't we come out acting like we act without some kind of cure? So that's what I'm suggesting to our people. And that's why I call it experts/specialists.
Martha, if I may, let's go back to the 60s.
Okay.
Let's start as an example with King, who was protesting against, the civil rights, inhumane treatment, and all those who follow. Just go back there. Let's hold on the past history of 200 years. But let's go back to the 60s. How many today, and I say this out of respect, those who are older, let's just say from 70 up, who may have experienced that trauma, but those today who have not experienced that trauma, can you imagine, and here's a similarity to that, being bitten by dogs and watered down and dragged, this and that. Here is a comparison. Yes, it's still happening today. You're being choked, you're being shot. This is the only culture that's still being traumatized and going through something that other cultures don't go through and have not been through.
Right.
But when you look at your history and go back and say, yes, it was worse. But in a sense, is still on a pattern of the exact same wagon. You see, they're still treating you inhumanely. It may not be physical, but there's physical, there's mental, there's emotional. There is trauma.
Yeah.
Until we as a whole say, wait a minute. And we talk about this on the podcast. Look at your neighbor. Talk to somebody. Hey, what can we do? Even if I don't know that much, what can I ask somebody? And I'm going to say, Sister Sharp, tell me what happened during that time. You share something. It's about sharing to help us, those who don't have a clue, to learn something, to move forward.
You are absolutely right, my brother. And the only reason I'm going to stick to that because I'm getting ready to write a manifesto about this, which is different from what we've been used to thinking in terms of our situation. We have a situation, and the situation that we have cannot be dealt with just willy-nilly. We have to have the same kind of professional, the same kind of experts, the same kind of folks who would tend to cancer.
Right.
When they discovered that there was certain around in your body, and this wasn't yesterday, this was way back when our African brothers and sisters invented or determined or described what we had as a cancer. They didn't use that word, but they were the first. When they discovered that, they went in to then direct themselves to that illness. Otherwise, they might have looked at my feet and thought it was, but it had nothing to do with the cancer in my breath. So when we understand each other in the same way, what we went through had nothing to do with other folks who may have gone to slavery, other folks who may have been Holocaust, other folks who may have been the Indians was, annihilated. But ours was so different that it requires now a different approach to us being tended to. We got to first name it, as they were saying. I said up front, we got to name it. And once you put a name to something, means that then you got to tend to it for that reason. So until we get that in our heads and our knowledge, we're going to always look at each other and blame us for whatever thing we see going on wrong. That's why in my book, Verbal Healing, we must reject tired, trite, tasteless, and other nonsensical expressions that keep us damaged. It talks about how we will misdiagnose and define ourselves because if we don't know that it is a virus or compared to a virus, then we will think, well, why can't we get out from under what other folks have gotten out from under? But we are the only one that have been afflicted by what we are, the two things particularly, stripped us of everything, our language, our culture, whatever, and the brutality by which we were subjected. We were raped, we were hanged, we were burned at the stake. Now we realize we were cannibalized. We were just done so much too that it's no wonder we're still here. But because of who we are, the strength of our DNA, God made us first. So he gave us what it is to survive whatever it is. But we got to realize that there has to be a recognition of us going through something that's going to require expertise in order to get us out of what we think what we are into.
And see, even with this, when I was just writing down little notes, a virus of ignorance, that in itself, yes, you're right. Study what is a virus. Yes, there's a bacteria, but you can also translate that into another form of humankind, of the mindset. You see, Paul said, and if I may, Paul said, by the renewing of your mind, change the way you think. That's a bacteria that's there and is spreading, and all of society or the percentage of society get caught up in following that bacteria as opposed to following an antidote. The antidote is among ourselves to come together, to reunite, to build, and as you indicated, also which will unfold the experts who have more of a knowledge, who delve deep into what is that virus of the ignorant mindset of human beings. Because it's a bacteria. That's a bacteria.
Right.
And so all our medical doctors and psychologists and scientists, whatnot, take it from one perspective and look at it through the lens of another perspective. That lens of another perspective is what's in front of us. How do you kill that virus?
That's the question. But is that question for me or you to answer, or for someone who have studied? If I come to you today and say, Ron, my heart, something happening. I feel like, my pain in my heart. What will you tell me? Will you say, go get Norm? Or will you say, let's call an emergency? You would call an emergency. You would go past Norm, as great as he is on what he's doing here. Now, we know he's the expert here.
Right.
But he's not the expert on my heart. I wouldn't want you to do that. I want you to go call someone who you think, the cardiologist. All I'm saying, we got to stop believing that we can be cured from 200 years of what happened to us that didn't happen to any other human being on the planet.
That's true, which is true. And that's why during that time, take our sister Harriet Tubman. She said, I'm going to be free. She saw what was happening. She knew what was happening. She didn't have the tools to try to create what was going on with the master. She said, no, the master's killing us. So we need to move forward.
Extraordinary lady, one individual, but we are not all extraordinary. We are basically just common people that don't know much about anything.
That's true.
But don't even know our history.
That's why we have, in this case, an engineer who knows from this perspective, who knows how to operate. We have to learn how to come together to follow somebody who has more knowledge of whatever's taking place.
Oh, I agree. That's why I'm specifying experts and specialists.
Right.
Not just anyone. Then we'll stop blaming ourselves if we don't know. If I don't know, I just happen to know. I think about and compare myself. I'm using this as an example. God put it in my head. See, he doesn't always get the expert. He gets sometimes the lowly one to do what they need to do.
That's right.
I think about Moses. They say Moses had a stuttering.
Yep.
He couldn't speak.
Yep.
But he got Moses. So it's not that he can't get an individual. I'm here. I'm here for some reason. I know it's all about the grace of God that I am trying to direct and trying to inform my people that there needs to be something other than me. I can tell them you need experts, because if I had cancer, or if I had heart disease, you wouldn't just grab me, you, or anyone else that haven't studied that.
Right.
You have to have studied what it is you're trying to correct or cure. And until we understand that clearly, we're going to allow other folks who will verbalize for us and, who control the narrative. We write the narrative for us. We should have known this and we should have known that. We allow them to dictate. But if we get to the point where we know that going through what we went through 200 years, for 200 years and more, still ongoing, like I say, it mutates. What we had come through now. So if we understand that, we will demand, the same as that person who has a heart disease, that you get me someone here quick that can help me go through what I'm going through, who have studied it.
Now, and you're right. In one sense, that's true, in the true sense. But on the other hand, the bacteria and the virus that's in place now, that one is not asking for no expert, whatnot. But it's up to us to understand it's a bacteria, it's a virus. I'm not going to go to that person, and you're absolutely correct. If something's wrong with me, let's just say my educational state. I'm not sure. Who do I talk to? Well, let's talk to you. Let's talk to the engineer. Engineer, what should I do to be able to operate this correctly? Which means we're taking steps to move forward. You're absolutely correct. Those who don't know, those who may be ignorant in the true sense, meaning that you don't know. But when you ask the question, I need some understanding, can you help me? Then you're right. It comes to, if I'm struggling with something personally, mental, physical, emotionally, then somebody, I may not be the expert, but I have a band-aid until we get to somebody who is the expert.
Exactly. See, that's
Right.
what we are working with the
Right.
bandage.
Right.
We as African Americans using bandages.
Right.
But until we can understand that bandage is going to come off, we're going to have to deal with the what it is for real. Once we understand that clearly, we will know that I can put a bandage here because I know enough about us to tell you who we are, where we come from, how we operated, how many inventions we made in this country. But then I need some to go further in order to cure the rest of us. You know what I'm saying? Because there are many of us that don't even know as much as I know. But we know based on expertise and what has to be done to correct or go into any situation that we deem specialized situations. Again, I use the cardiologist or the oncologist or whomever. They go to special things to learn how to operate special remedies. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
They could say put a bandage on this temporarily.
Right.
But then they know if it continue to do what it's not supposed to do, then they have to come back and look at it, research it.
Now, see this, and they also, and I agree with you.
Mm-hmm.
And what just came to mind is the
Bernard Harrison say, thanks for fighting for us. Love you. Thank you. Whoa. Okay, we were God's chosen people. Mary Watts, amen. Down in Florida. Robert Cabbage Dog, so you're on deck. Terry Benjamin, watching two of my favorite people. Oh, praise God. Barry Harris. Abraham Torrey's message is so refreshing, one that we really don't hear from African. His message is unifying people of the continent of Africa with black Americans and black people all over the world. Deuteronomy 7:6. 6 for thou art an holy people upon the Lord thy God. The Lord thy God had chosen thee to be a special people unto himself above all people that are upon the face of the earth. Praise God. Sonny Shiver say, I'm here. Big God, that's my grandson. Okay, I'm so glad to see all of you. Mary Watts again. Okay, I'm glad. You know what? You do my heart joy when I know that you're watching, listening. We're going to be bringing you information, as I said, because I know it's information is the key. Because my people, it says it, Hosea 4:6, my people will perish for lack of knowledge. And when I say information, I mean knowledge, because you can get a lot of information. May not always be the right one, but you get knowledge. That's what's important. You get the knowledge that's going to liberate you from where we were to where we got to go. And as I said to you always, when I came on, I was interested in just a sort of a one-dimensional approach. But I know with this new sheriff in town, we got to do more than just restore ourselves. We got to fight now how we can fight. As our brother Joe Madison said, our ancestor, his ancestor now, what you going to do about it? Each one of us can do what we can do. May not be as big as we think we can, but what I'm doing, I'm bringing information about as much as I can do. You can do something. Teach your people how this voting, that's necessary for us to get this man out of office. And some of us say, well, I don't do politics. Well, politics is really doing us. We see that now. So we know, we tell each one of us, tell your friends, your relatives, next time there's voting, we get out, because that's going to be one of the things that's going to bring us back to where we need to be. At least have a fighting chance. See, it's not going to cure anything. And it's not about who's, loving whom. We look for love in all the wrong places. I don't care whether they love me or not. What I'm concerned with, we put folks in office that we can sort of demand certain things. They may not want to do it, may not love to do it. But if we can demand certain, we know we can't demand this man here in office to do anything. So it shows you it is important to get out and vote. And that's the optimal word now. Make your people know. Those of you who had reservation about politics, about getting out voting, no, do that. Otherwise, you will end up with someone who you have in office today. So I am very pleased and thankful that you all are here, but I just want to remind you, too, that our young people are coming back. they have not been idle. All of them take music lesson at Rose's studio. That's my sister. And they had their recital last Saturday. And did they perform? I'm sure they'll be bringing you clippings from their affair. When Miss Rose Moore, their director and instructor, bring them back in December. So keep an eye out for them. We are excited about what's going on. We think that we have provided you all with enough information that you will carry it further, and we're going to hope and pray to see you all next Monday. And we want to say have a very happy, should I say Thanksgiving? God-given day. Okay? Take care now. God bless you. And thank you, Ron, for being here.
It's a pleasure. Absolutely. Always.